Hello, my name is Joey Primo, and welcome to my Action Research Multimedia presentation. My Action Research project was all about focusing on how to improve student engagement through small activities at the start of class, basically. So, my problem statement is that I feel that intermediate students have a very rough time feeling engaged in a lesson they're learning early on in the day or after when they are transitioning from one class to the next. It is through this assignment that I intend on developing strategies that work at the intermediate level specifically, strategies that I can use in the future to develop a better understanding and a more cohesive environment through the commitment and creation of student engagement. A main factor in my research will be to make sure that the ideals that I am developing within the class through the use of bump start activities align with the main ideals developed by the administration in the school, or their mission statement. The statement of the research problem can be broken down into four main categories. It's all about student engagement, exploring how teachers can effectively engage students at the beginning of their lesson. I quickly noticed that the biggest enemy in the classroom is the clock. There's only so much time in a class. This problem is important because of how it affects the school as a whole. If instructors can engage their students at the start of class and make it a routine to do so, I believe that the learning environment would improve greatly. I also consider engagement and enjoyment in the classroom to go hand in hand, that you cannot have one without the other. I connect student engagement not to just academic performance, but also to how it can affect the development of students' learning skills and work habits. These habits are crucial to the success and betterment of students, especially at the intermediate or junior level. My main research questions can be seen on the screen. The first one is mainly about whether or not my bump start activities at the start of class will help to improve students' level of engagement and enjoyment in the class. My second one is that can small tasks and exercises that focus on having students actively think through fun, non-traditional mini lessons, can they improve student engagement? I would also like to identify whether or not student engagement itself is connected to academic performance as well as a student's learning skills and work habits. There are three main definitions that are central to my study. The first one would be about student engagement, the level at which students are actively participating during class time. The second main one would be bump start activity. So bump start activities, when I refer to it in the future of this presentation, it's basically a mini lesson, maximum 10 minutes, because there's only so much time you have in the day. And it's ideally not involving the subject that they're going to be learning, the class that they're sitting in. And it requires students to easily engage in the task at hand so that they're able to transition to the main lesson that follows. It's kind of like an unofficial minds-on activity. And finally, a school's mission. It's very important to me that whatever I'm doing in my classroom exemplifies and demonstrates the main school mission, or the main ideals or goals or norms that a school has put forward that the staff and students are supposed to follow. During the process, we had to do a literature review, and it gave me a lot of knowledge and more understanding about what exactly an engaged student is, but also how to measure student engagement, which was the hardest part I was dealing with at the start of this. So this is the first article that I looked at. It was by Carney et al. Feel free to go back and really read. This would be my annotated bibliography. So this annotation explains exactly what each article is about. The second one I looked at was done by Kazari and Kinsey in 2006, and finally Marks from 2000. So the three articles I curated for my research project have had a profound effect on how I will conduct my research in the classroom, and it's as well as given me a lot of theoretical ideals to keep in mind. All three articles focused on how to create more student engagement in the classroom, as well as why focusing on creating engagement is so important for instructors. The articles I selected have allowed me to develop a deeper understanding as to how to organize the data I will be collecting in the future, and specifically how the data will be need to be interpreted. After data collection, determining what the data is saying or not saying is the most important part of the research-based question. My first article basically exposed the fact that engagement can be measured through assessing students' learning skills and work habits. By focusing on students' learning skills and work habits and how they change in response to my bump start activities, it will give me more data to work with and analyze in combination with collection of quantitative data such as student marks and student activities, as well as any surveys that I put forth. The second article I read by Kazar and Kinsey describes how important and how much effort a school's mission can have on a research study like this. Connected overall, and the article itself connected overall student engagement to how much students support and believe in the school's main mission. And finally, Marx's article from 2000 highlights and refers to other research studies that connected the importance of differentiated instruction in regards to improving student engagement. When I read this, I really connected that to my idea that these bump start activities should not be necessarily the same subject that the students are sitting in. I like the idea of a class doing a small geography-based lesson or a bump start that is geography based before, let's say, what some students consider a more dry subjects such as math. So all three articles have provided me with an enormous amount of understanding when it comes to defining student engagement, as well as how I can track and accumulate data when it comes time to start my research. Overall, when I was searching for articles, I was trying to find sources that would help me develop criteria and plan in order to assess whether or not the activities I am doing is actually aiding and creating more student engagement in my class. So, next would be to go over my research action plan, how I will be actually accumulating data. I really valued this portion of the assignment because it was one of the first times that I've made a timeline such as this, and it really made me realize how much planning really needs to go into a research project like this. The two main data sources I'm going to be collecting will be student work from all students, especially my target students, as well as lots of anecdotal notes focused on assessing students' learning skills and work habits in response to bump start activities. In conjunction with the student work, I will be conducting one or two, hopefully two surveys a week, in order to understand how students think we can improve as instructors in regards to improving student engagement, as well as how effective these bump starts are creating a more engaged setting. Because I would like my students to be fully aware that these bump starts are for a particular reason. So when they come into my class, though they're ready for their bump start activity, they should be ready and excited for it because they should be enjoyable in nature. And then it's just like a stepping stone in regards to trying to reach a level of engagement that will help them learn for the next about 50 to an hour that they have left in class. Specifically the target students, I plan on creating a group of target students that represent the total population of the students that will be receiving the bump start activities. The student work that these students will put forward will be analyzed more closely, as well as these students will be the primary focus of anecdotal notes in regards to assessing the students' learning skills and work habits. I feel like having a group of target students is better than looking at classes as a whole, because the sample size would result in a lot more data than I would like to work with. So, participates in setting. As the instructor, I would be responsible for conducting the bump starts as well as doing the main assessment of the data collection. For all the classes, I intend on using a sample size of target students in order to simplify some of my data analysis. The sample size will consist will consist of a portion of the student population that will participate in the Bump Start activities. I would also like to see if I could have an EA or another instructor take notes based on student engagement during the Bump Start activities that will help and add strength to the anecdotal notes that will be collected through the process. If someone is not available for the observational notes during the Bump Start activities, notes will have to be done after the activity, but it will be much more reflective in nature. Anecdotal notes should also be happening during the class time when the students come to the point where they're doing a main activity of the subject that they're supposed to be in. The setting will be normally in a classroom setting. It's imperative that the classrooms that will be involved are fully equipped with the tech that is needed for some of the activities. It's also very crucial that a smartboard is in there and a projector that has a screen sharing device such as Apple TV. A lot of the activities and the bump starts that I have created are tech-based, and it's crucial that the setting that we're in is tech-worthy. Data collection is very, very important, but just as important as data collection is, it's important to keep in mind how I'm going to triangulate my data, but also to create valid data and data that is reliable throughout the whole process. So in order to ensure that the data I collect is valid, it is crucial to determine the level of engagement and academic achievement of the target students specifically before their activities begin. This is very important to determine if A, there is a need for activities, and B, determine a starting point for the students being closely studied so that if there is changes to their academic performance or their learning skills and work habits, it can be easily identified. The selection of the target students also has a profound effect on the validity and the reliability of the data collected. Because most of the best data will be coming from the target students, it's imperative that they're selected randomly. I would also like the sample size of target students to represent at least 25% of the total students involved. I also think that ensuring that the data I collect in regards to whether or not the learning skills and work habits are improving comes from anecdotal notes on my behalf, but also small student surveys that they will be conducting twice a week. In order to ensure that the data is that data is being collected is reliable, I think making sure that there is an even amount of anecdotal notes creating quality of data that there is to quantity of data collected from academic performance tasks. This needs to be done in combination with making sure the pieces of student learning I'm collecting that will be used for data follows the same structure and results in numeric values that I can easily organize. So basically the tasks that they do that I will be collecting need to be very similar in regards to how they're graded and what they're asking the students to talk about. On these next two slides, you can see a timeline chart of the data collection process. I have basically 6 types of data here that I'd like to focus on. Most importantly is the pre-study notes and target student identification. So in the month of September, that time will be used in order to identify any needs as well as the target students for the future months to follow. Anecdotal notes, observing the students' involvement during Bump Start activities is important. That happens throughout the whole thing. Student work, small tasks graded out of 10. So lessons that have a bump start at the beginning need to end with a small task, could be an exit card, that is a mark of 10, so that when it's collected, and that is a key point of my data, it's going to be easy to analyze and organize once it's in an Excel file or something like that. In addition to that, target student work is very, very important. Every single piece of their learning of the target students will be collected and assessed. I've mentioned the learning skills and work habits of anecdotal notes of a class as well. And then I've also mentioned before student surveys once or twice a week. They'll fill out a survey that pertains to their thoughts about how to improve engagement, but also whether they feel more engaged. All right. Ethical considerations. This pertains to my target students. Their names will be left out, and this is important for confidentiality reasons, but it also adds to the reliability and validity of the data that is collected, and eliminates any bias a name would have to somebody if they saw it in the study themselves. So, to wrap it all up, it's all about student engagement and how I can facilitate more engagement right at the start of my process. I hope everything was laid out clear and in an even manner, and you enjoyed this research journey that I've been on, because I have enjoyed this, and it's been a good it's been a good toe in the water, I would say. Thank you.